Well, good evening, Arsenal family. Welcome to the Convo. Chad here. I am super excited about this conversation that we have tonight. Here's what I want you to do. Hit the share button on Facebook. Hit the share button on YouTube. Let people know that the conversation is happening here, and this is the conversation they want to be a part of. Tonight, our special guest is a man by the name of Bill Thrall. Bill is a Yoda. Bill is a mentor, is a friend, is a leader of leaders. This is someone who his ministry, who he is as a person, as a man, has impacted my life, my ministry, my family profoundly. So I promise you tonight is going to be incredible. I'm going to set you up with a couple things, though, just to set you up for success. One, if you have questions, put them in the comments, and we will get to them as quickly as we can, or as easily as we can. We'll get to those comments. We will make it work. We want to answer your questions. We want to have this conversation with you. This is not just me talking. It is us having a conversation. So we want you to do that. And just so you know, the conversation, why do we do the convo? Why do we do this? I've kind of set it up. One, I'm an extrovert, and we're quarantined, and I don't get to see or talk to a lot of people right now. So this was my way of connecting. Two, this is a conversation. That is what we do on the convo. We have conversations. They're not always going to be the most spiritual thing. They're not always going to, I promise you're not going to hear me preaching on the convo. It is me bringing people onto the convo to have a conversation, to share with you, and for us to enter into whatever chat we might get into that night. It's a place where you'll have different people from different walks of life, and we're going to have conversations with them tonight. Though our guest is Bill Thrall. Bill Thrall. I'm going to read a bio, but then I'm going to tell you who Bill Thrall is to me. So Bill Thrall is the co-founder of TrueFace. He co-founded TrueFace in 1995. I love this bio. It says Bill's wisdom has been penned throughout The Cure, and I'm going to do this. Has been penned throughout The Cure, which is this incredible book, which changed my theology and my world. The Ascent of a Leader, which is this incredible book right here. We'll probably talk a lot about this one tonight. Bo's Cafe, which I don't have here. It's at the house. Behind the Mask, I don't have that one. And High Trust Cultures. Bill's gifts and experiences also shine as he helps leaders establish trust in all their key relationships and nurtures grace-based environments. CEOs of international companies to heads of mission organizations and universities have repeatedly discovered a lifelong gratitude for spending time with Bill. I can tell you this. I got to be in a cohort, a group of people with Bill for the past 2 years, and he has blown my mind. So here's one thing you need to know. Grab a notebook and a pencil, because if there's anything Bill Thrall is, he is the king of wisdom one-liners. And if you're going to be scrounging to find something to write it down on, I promise you, there are times where the cohort that I was in, my friend Reward Sabanda was in that cohort with me. There are times where Bill would say something, and we would, wait. He just keeps going because it's just normal to him. But this is wisdom upon wisdom upon wisdom. So grab a notebook, grab your pens. I promise you're going to be blessed. Hit the share button. If you know anybody that's a leader, or if you want to be a leader, or if you're just a person that has somebody in your life that is a leader, then you want to be a part of this conversation. So I'm going to bring Bill on, and we're just going to start. We're just going to jump into this. And if you, like I said, if you have questions, if you have anything you want to add to the conversation, throw it in the chat. Let your friends know. Here we go. Please, please, please welcome my friend and the Yoda, just a mentor, an incredible person, Bill Thrall. Bill, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Chad. I'm doing really well.
You doing all right, sir? Nice.
I am.
We finally got our tech issues worked out.
Yes, we did. I feel so much more relaxed.
Good. I've got a delay with you for some reason, and I don't know what's going on. You talk, and then your video talks.
You know, I'm absolutely no help to you at this point, so I'm just talking.
I want to kick you out and bring you back in, but I'm afraid we may not get you back into the studio.
Well, give it a try. We can do that.
All right, I'll kick you out and then come back in, and we'll see if it fixes it. All right, here we go. I don't know what it is with this thing. Every time something happens. But Bill is we'll talk about this. I think Bill's 80 years old now. So the fact that Bill has the ability and the know-how to click on technology and figure out StreamYard is impressive to me either way. All right, here we go. Let's try this again. All right, Bill, is that better?
What do you think? Is it better?
Not really, but we'll make it work. I don't know what it is, but we'll be all right. Leonardo's asking me if you're on Android. He's not. He's actually on a iPad. Oh, everybody says you're fine. It's just me. Maybe I just see you behind. So if you're good for them, then I'm good with it.
All right.
Bill, are you in Phoenix right now?
I am in Phoenix, actually in my little office, and I've begun to travel a little bit. I'm really looking forward to next week. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a cohort with some leaders that I've been meeting with kind of on Zoom for the last 2 months, and we've not been able to get together, but we decided we were going to do it next week. So I'm very anxious to be there with their coaches. Half of them are African American, and boy, just the experience of being with this group the last 2 months has been a great learning experience for me. So next week becomes real special for me.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's probably, so you said it's coaches, basketball coaches?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think a friend of ours is probably in it. Which is awesome. What a cool group. Is. Yeah. I don't know that I like that you're traveling, but you you do you.
I know it's I don't know what else to do. I mean, I really don't. I'm like a lot of people. I'm in the dilemma, but I'm willing to do it. I feel okay with it. My wife feels okay with it, and so we're just going to see, and hopefully we're wise and we'll be able to not get ill. We'll see.
If anything, if there's anything I know about you, it's that you are wise. So I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
Oh man. So you've been doing Zoom calls and cohorts, meetings that way,
yes,
since COVID hit?
Yeah. And one of the interesting themes, if I would say that we've been experiencing a lot with these leaders is just this idea of how significant in our culture today trust is, and how critical a clear understanding of who God says we are is so foundational to trust. So that's just kind of that's been like a reoccurring theme in multiple phone calls in the last 3 months.
Yeah, and that's something that you do, like you do well. You work with leaders. You talk about trust and what trust means in leadership. And so I want to dive into that. I got a message here. It says Alina, but it's actually Mike G. He asked if you're ready for golf next week.
Yes, I am, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm sure you're looking forward to beating Mike G, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you guys are gonna have fun. So, yeah, like I said, you talk a lot about trust and in leadership, and I want to kind of get into that. But first, I want to talk about you're 80 now, right?
I am.
80 years old.
I'm 80 years old. I know. I'm in total denial. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, you are.
Just in total denial.
80 years old,
I'm
and
fishing.
Can't nobody hold you down.
No, I know I shouldn't be bragging, but I just want you to know that twice during this epidemic, I have shot my age, which is just amazing to me. It's just amazing.
Shot your age, and for those of you that don't know, that means he shot an 80 in golf, which is phenomenal.
Wow.
I've never done anything close to that. So that's you just get better with age, right? You're like a fine wine.
I don't know, but it sure is fun. I'm gonna last as long as I can.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm glad. So let's talk about this. So you are one of the co-founders of TrueFace, which is a ministry that has profoundly impacted my life. And you've trained leaders all over the world, really. Can we talk a little bit about just how you started that, like how you got into that? How did that come about?
Yeah. Actually, it was 25 years ago this month that a brother named Bruce McNichol and I got together to try to imagine how we might be able to speak into leaders. And we were, both of us, coming to a place where we were trying to understand how to experience God's grace as leaders. And an incredible dynamic between us took place and then became part of our writing. There's just this realization that humility is a critical component to our relationship with God and others. And what we did together is we discovered that humility, God says this, that God gives grace to the humble. And I'm an evangelical Christian, and I love to sing about God's amazing grace. And I believe that God's grace is amazing. But I've discovered lots and lots and lots of Christians that although they're, quote, saved, or they're born again, or they know they're going to heaven, they're not living at all in the hope of experiencing grace. So that what we tried to do is we tried to understand humility. If God gives grace to the humble, then I want to know something about humility.
Right.
And if humility is a virtue that if I have it, I can't talk about it, that doesn't help me much. So we discovered that humility is really a relational word. And humility is trusting God with me. Trusting God with me. And when I as an individual, both Christian and non-Christian, when I as an individual make the decision that I'm going to trust God with me, that's humility. And here's the promise of God. He will then allow me to experience grace. And then we expanded our thinking into, well, if that's true in our relationship with God, what about our relationship with each other? How can we experience humility in our relationship with each other? And the same principle applies. I can experience grace with you, Chad, when I'm willing to trust you with me. And so this opportunity for us in leaders to talk about what does it mean to really trust somebody with me. I'm going to extend this a little bit, Chad.
Yeah.
Because I've got to get the me right.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to trust God with me. Well, who in the world am I? Do you know how many people, Chad, are afraid of ever really looking in the mirror? Are afraid of ever really discovering who they are? And I'm going to extend it further. How I see me is never as important as how God sees me. So if I could trust God with me, and I could trust God with me and discover who he says I am, I literally do not have of you.
You said you literally what?
And that is so critical for relationships. I teasingly say to people, we're so schizophrenic. You know, it's like, hey, come, love me, love me, love me. Just don't get too close. It's
Right.
just like, hey, I need you, but just I'm afraid you might actually know me. And my fear of you knowing me is I'm afraid you won't like me. And it's tragic. Isn't that just listening to myself say these things? I go, how tragic. I live in a world where I hunger for relationship, but I'm afraid. And my fear of being known is masked by my shame. And I'm convinced that if you knew me, you wouldn't like me and you wouldn't want me around. And therefore, I'm poking a finger in my own eye to keep you from liking me. And we haven't even met yet.
We haven't even met yet. It's before we and it circles all the way back around, right? It circles all the way back around to, I don't think if you see me, I don't think you'll like me because my view of me is distorted.
Exactly. And so we have this, God gives grace to the humble. Oh, come on, everybody, get in line. And we go, wait. Humility is trust. Oh man, I'm afraid to trust. And equally, because I do a lot of work with leaders, I'm afraid to trust, and I'm actually afraid to be trusted.
Yeah.
How's that for happy relationships?
So we can't experience grace because we can't trust. We don't want to allow people to allow us to be trustworthy.
Yeah. And it's even if it was little as we've already said, it's not a mystery that our country today and our nation and our world is kind of upside down relational. It's not a mystery. So this idea of what would it take? I'll just talk about us, Chad. We have a relationship. And in that relationship, what does it take for us, you and me, to be willing? I would say it this way: what do I need to do, Chad, so you trust me? I never want to come across saying, well, you just read a bunch of stuff about me and all that good stuff. No, I don't ever want to say, hey, you can trust me. My name is Bill Thrall. That's nonsense.
Right.
That's nonsense. What really makes sense is if you and I, Chad, are choosing to have a relationship, what do I need in order to trust you? And what do you need in order to trust me? That's called humility.
And if so with that being said, if humility is a stepping point, right, of me being able to allow you, or me being able to trust you, right? I need that, and you, in the place where allowing you to see me as somebody who is trustworthy. How do I get to the place? Like, so the thing is, fear keeps us from trusting.
Yeah.
How do I overcome that? What is there something you've seen where it says, "Hey, this is how you overcome that fear"? What's a silver bullet?
Here's what I say. Yeah, exactly. Here's what I say. Why don't we just learn to be honest with each other, that there are real things in me that keep me from trusting you, and I haven't met you yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
and then when I meet you, so it's like the silver bullet to me is a willingness to be honest about how much we struggle with trust. So here's an interesting dynamic. That vulnerability that vulnerability, my vulnerability or your vulnerability toward me, it actually ignites in me a greater desire to trust you.
Hmm.
If you come to me altogether, I'm going to doubt you. But if you come to me vulnerable with your fears and concerns, I'm going to go, man, this is a guy I could trust because he's like me.
Mm.
See, so that vulnerability is such an important part. It's partly a dynamic of I'll back up 1,000 steps.
Okay.
So many of us have tried to gain relationship through performance.
Hmm.
And so we have desperately tried to be whatever anybody else wants me to be, so I will perform for you. Relationships aren't built on performance. They're built on trust.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I want to be in relationships with God and others where it just sounds so simple, but it's not. Where I just wake up one morning and I actually say to somebody, you know what? I really need you. I am not enough. I really need you. And if your name is God, really think about that. I really need you. And if your name is God, and I chose to trust you, what in the world are you going to do with me?
Hmm.
And I'm going to suggest 3 broad categories of God's response to our trust.
Yeah.
The first one is this: God is going to love those who trust him. In fact, we can't experience his love until we trust him. There's a verse in the Bible.
As I say, speak more on that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a verse in the Bible that lots and lots and lots of people know. I learned it a lot when I was a kid, about 7 or 8 years old. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And whosoever believeth in him will not perish but have everlasting life. Why doesn't the world know this love of God? Because they don't trust this God of love.
Hmm.
So imagine if we actually believed that the intention of God for us to trust him is so he could love us. And what if that became kind of a model for us? And if the reason, Chad, that you and I, a primary reason for you and I to have relationship and trust is so we could experience love.
Right.
That's kind of critical. The second thing that I would these are broad, but the second thing I would say is that when God, and by the way, God's an egomaniac. He's not asking us to trust him. Trust the Lord with all your heart because God's an egomaniac. No. He's a God of love. He wants us to trust him so that he can love us, but he also wants us to trust him so he can teach us truth. God wants to teach us truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's you talked about my one-liners, but here's an interesting dynamic. Truth, in order to be experienced, has to be trusted.
Hmm.
Knowledge can inform me, but only truth can transform me. See, I don't have to trust knowledge. I just have to know it.
Right.
But I absolutely have to trust truth to experience it. And I say this to a lot of people, and I've said it to myself many times. How in the world would I know if I'm trusting truth? I would act upon it. Could I tell you, Chad, how few people are being taught what I just said? Could I tell you?
Come on, Bill. There's millions of Christians in the world. Like, what do you mean? How few people are being taught this?
Yeah. Let me just tell you. Nobody. I'm not saying this is a broken spirit. All I'm saying is, when Christians are taught to know the Bible, they're not being taught to trust the Bible. They never have to act upon the Bible. It only informs them. So what I want to do is I want to be aware of something. So let me just go back to the heart of God. The heart of God, he wants to love, he wants to teach me truth. Why does he want to teach me truth? So I can grow up. He would actually like me to grow up.
Right.
He thinks that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
The immature Christian is protected in a world that desperately needs truth.
Well, and you said something. You said something just a second ago that reminds me. So you said knowledge can inform me, only truth can transform me. And as you're talking about the Bible, one of the things I'm thinking is, like you said, people have been taught to like the knowledge of the Bible. As I think about this, I think people have been taught the knowledge of the Bible and understand the scriptural Bible, right? The book of the Bible.
Yes.
But for me to be transformed, I have to trust the truth that is in Christ, who the Bible is talking about, to actually transform me. Because the Bible is just a book, right? If we don't have Jesus, it's just a collection of letters if there's no life of Christ. And so my trusting that life of Christ that is informed by the knowledge of the Bible is really the only thing that will transform me.
Yeah. Amen. Think about what we're talking about here. This is amazing. Once in a while, I have the privilege of, say, teaching at a pastor's conference. And I will say to pastors, just my suggestion, that's all I'll say, it's my suggestion. I would like you to imagine that you don't teach what you call truth from the Bible that you personally have not experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are able to teach the truth that you have trusted, then the hearts of your listeners will also be formed.
Bill, you just limited a lot of what I can teach, though.
Well, I mean, I jokingly have had pastors say to me, "Then what would I teach?"
Yeah.
I say, "Well, isn't that the point?"
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the point? So imagine trusting with me, so he can love me, so he can teach me truth, and imagine a God who I'm trusting with me, so he can love, teach me truth, and listen to this. And so he can guide me to his purposes for my life.
So I can't get to his purposes for my life until I trust him.
That's right. No wonder we flounder. No wonder we flounder. It's like, am I able to trust God with me? Will he love me? Yes, he will. Will he teach me truth? Yeah. And will he guide me in his purposes? That's why he chose me. It's actually why he chose me. He has a purpose or multiple purposes. It isn't necessarily one thing. But to me, it's like I say all those things, and then I think of the ministry of Jesus on earth with the 12. I don't oversimplify it. But he spent his ministry with the 12, listen to this, loving them, teaching them truth, and guiding them into God's purposes for their life. That's what he did. That's exactly what he did. And by the way, it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
It worked. It worked.
So
I love to tell this story. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Tell your story.
Yeah, I love to tell this story. Back in the 70s, there was a series on TV on the life of Christ. And there's a scene in there where three of the disciples are 50 feet behind Jesus walking the shallows of the Jordan. They pause to talk with each other, and they have this conversation. And one of them says to the other two, "It's really him, isn't it?" It's like really him.
Right.
And the other two, "Yeah, it's really him." And then one of them said, "We're never going home again, are we? we're never going home again, are we? It's really him."
Mm.
And I say that, Chad, because when I'm able, by the miracle of God's grace, to trust God with me, figuratively, I'm never going home again. We're talking about a trusted relationship with the God of the universe. We're talking about a trusted relationship with Jehovah God. We're talking about a trusted relationship with Jesus Christ, the Son of God. It's like, if that doesn't make a difference, then nothing else will. So it's a big deal,
Right.
to trust God. But here's an interesting biblical phenomenon. Here's this guy, Jesus, and he's saying to his disciples, the evidence that you belong to me is that you will love each other just like I have loved you.
Yep.
That's kind of an interesting dynamic. Wait a minute. God is saying to me that, Chad, you and I can love each other just like we've been loved by him. And it will be the greatest evidence that we belong to God. What? It's like, what?
So with that concept, and I know with your leadership talks, and I think how do I take that? So I'm leading a church, right? And I'm leading people, this community. How do I take that concept? So if I'm learning to trust God, I'm learning humility, right? I'm learning to trust God with me, and I'm learning to trust people with me. And I'm stepping into that place as a leader where in your leadership, like in the ascent of a leader, I know with that there's even the rails of the ladder, right? And things that we can talk about, like what are the things that have to be in place for me as a leader to lead well? Because I think when I read your stuff, I've read a lot of leadership books, a lot, and listened to podcasts and listened to Audible books. But when you talk about being a leader and what being a leader looks like, it's different.
Yeah. I think, Chad, part of it is this, and that's okay. Part of it is we have historically written a lot of books, a lot of books have been written on leadership, and it's critical. Leadership is critical. But not as many books have been written on the principles that form a leader. And this is a concept. I'll share this. The greatest influence of your life as a pastor will not come out of your role. It'll come out of your person.
Say that again and unpack it.
Yeah. The greatest influence of your life as a pastor will not come out of your role. It'll come out of your person. Influence comes out of person, not out of role. So if you, in leading a church, and are able to understand that it is absolutely critical that that audience is actually trusting in person so they can hear your message. But they can't trust your person unless you engage with them. And it's like Jesus's model worked, but we don't like to follow it.
Yeah.
It's like it worked, but we don't like to follow it. I just want to remind me and the whole world, those followers of Jesus changed the world.
Yeah.
Because he did something. What he did is he came to them and he became vulnerable to them. And he became committed to them. And he's the one who said to them, I, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, Lord of all, want you to call me friend. I want the evidence of my influence in your life to be seen in our relationship.
Yeah, because if Jesus was just stepping into this teacher, shepherd, like messenger, Messiah role, right? As even Israel at the time, and even a lot of times we look at Jesus as he would have just came and taught, and quickly
Right.
and quickly stepped into a role as Messiah. But instead, he spent time, like no leadership book would tell him to spend time with 12, miscreants to learn relationship in order to start a movement. It would say prove your worth.
Yeah.
Show people your influence, and now go use that influence. And Jesus was very quick to step into relationship and not just overexert his influence.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's Chad. It's so interesting. This is hard for us. These are hard principles, but an interesting dynamic is that Jesus laid aside his authority.
Mm-hmm.
I know it doesn't make any sense, but you understand. I know you do. You're a pastor. He never had a role. He laid aside his authority.
Right.
See, there's a lesson in that for every leader. Do I need my authority? Or am I able to trust God with my person so that those I influence learn to trust me so I can let them, teach them truth and guide them? And, this is like one of those miracles of the Bible. There's a lot of them. This is one of the miracles of the Bible. When in the Old Testament, Israel struggled with the authority of God because they didn't trust his person. And they rebelled. And then they rebelled again. They rebelled another 52 times. It was just, it's so this is a reality. Authority creates in mankind a reaction. Just a reaction. So let's just agree and listen to the word of God. And Jesus, God, laid aside his authority so that humanity could trust the person of God.
Wow.
That's what he did. He wanted us to trust his person, so he became a man.
And when we teach that, a lot of times in the church, when that verse, right, the topic of he chose to give up his deity, right? His authority to walk this earth
Right.
as a man, we begin to just teach that as so that he could be the perfect sacrifice, right? Because our talk about
Yeah.
Jesus most of the time is so that he can get rid of our sins and save us. But what you're saying is Jesus gave up his authority so that he could show us as a human what trust and humility looks like in relationship, so that we could experience that with him,
Right.
and then in turn experience that
Yeah.
with others.
Yeah. It's like that's how important we are, God. That's a big deal. I mean, it's theologically, it's in reality a big deal.
Yeah.
Imagine my God coming to earth, putting himself, so that I could see the person of God.
Hmm.
So that I could trust the person of God. So that I could let the person of God love me. Is what he's always wanted to do. And that dynamic, it's like, so go back to what we were saying earlier. It's like, well, wait a minute. Now I'm a leader. I've got a responsibility. I've got a corporation or a church or a ministry. I've got to lead. Yes, you do. I agree with leadership. Leadership's a great thing. Thank you. But what I'm trying to help leaders see is, are they modeling what Jesus modeled in the way they lead?
Mm-hmm.
And are they willing to become so personable with people that they're willing to even move into friendships? Friendships are critical in relationship. Now, I know, I mean, I've been around a little bit, you've been around. You know, there are many schools of theology that are actually teaching pastors to not befriend people in their church, because it'll set up people who know the pastor and those who don't, so you don't befriend anyone. So pastors are actually being taught to discover friendships outside their own church.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
What? I mean, but you understand the misunderstanding is this. If, Chad, I do not choose to trust you, I will not hear your truth.
So, yeah, in that like staying in the pastoral vein, then if I'm unwilling to enter into relationships, because what happened, I mean, exactly what we just said Jesus didn't do is what we end up doing in the church. The pastor grabs a hold of the authority of the title and the position.
Yep.
And now I am the authority
Yeah.
here because God has called me and placed me here. And I can't let you see the human of me because I can't trust you with me. Because the moment that I trust you with me, you're going to see that, going back to what you said earlier, my character doesn't live up to the role or the authority that I'm holding on to, because I never developed the capacity of my character.
Yeah. Now just think of your illustration. There is such a lack of integrity in that environment that nobody's going to learn truth.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Because we're just making believe. It's like you, Chad, in your church. You're very careful. The people in your church, in my opinion, do not have an unhealthy view of you because you've been honest with them with who you really are.
Hmm.
By the way, that is critical to them hearing truth.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, Chad, we hear Christian minister and leader one after the other failing. And that failure often is a hidden problem that they had no one they could share with because it would have broken the ideal. Think how tragic that is.
Yeah.
So in our work, we've learned tragically, Chad, that 50 to 64% of all Christian leaders do not finish well.
You said 50 to 60%?
Tragically. 50 to 64% of all Christian leaders do not finish well. And listen to this. And the number one cause of leadership is isolation.
Because we're teaching a model of leadership where you have to isolate.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. We're teaching a model of leadership of what could be, but we're not teaching a model of leadership of what I've already learned and am.
Right.
What if a pastor said, I'm going to preach Sunday on whatever, Philippians chapter 2, and I want you to know that I personally am still struggling with the application of this lesson. But we today, just imagine learning together these three whatevers. It changes the whole dynamic.
Absolutely.
And some people will leave the church because they're going to say, well, our pastor should know that. And they're going to go to a church whose pastor says he knows it, but is lying.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So it's like, come on, let's not do that. So that's why at the very beginning I was saying to you that's why for us this critical operative word in all relationship with God and others is trust. Pastors who fail because of isolation are demonstrating they've trusted no one with who they really are.
Let me ask you this, and maybe you've got a good definition or what this looks like. I have my thoughts, and I think everybody kind of has their idea of what trusting somebody with me is. But what does that really mean? How do I trust you with me? What am I? Does that mean I have to sit down and tell you all my deepest, darkest secrets? What does that really mean?
Yeah, thank you. I think it begins, thank you for that. I think it begins with I said earlier, Pat, I'd like to have a relationship with you. How do we earn each other's trust? And what I mean by that is, I have some needs. I believe you have some needs. I wonder if we would be intentional about moving into covering, meeting each other's needs. Just as simple as that. That's profound, but just as simple as that. It isn't like I have to lay everything out before. No, it's just as simple as saying to some other human being, what about our being intentional about declaring each other needs we have for each other? Like, for instance, I am a fragile person because I've been really wounded. And I need people whose commitment to me I can really trust.
Yeah.
Because that commitment gives me security.
Right.
Chad, I have lived for these several years very closely in committed relationships because I know how insecure I am. And when I'm fragile, I'm a bundle. I'm a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm a lot of work. But people who are able to stand with me when I'm fragile have been used of God to strengthen me and keep me, quote, healthier than I am without them.
Mm.
I don't mind saying this to you, Chad, or to anybody that's watching us. I really am not good at handling me.
Mm.
I never have been. do a bad job with Bill. I need Grace and John and Bruce and others in my life because they are able, quote, to handle me. And I want them to.
Right.
Because I'm 80 now. We teased about that. But, eventually, if you live long enough, you actually figure out a few things. One of the things I figured out is that although I say to an audience that I was really wounded as a child, because I was, but I can honestly say to this audience, I don't think anybody has hurt me as much as I have.
So true.
I don't think anybody has. And yet I need, like I just said, I need people who can accept the reality of how fragile I am.
Yeah.
And instead, and this is important to say, instead of helping me deal with being fragile, if they would just commit to me, it would give me security and I won't be as fragile.
So they're not fixing the problem of my fragility. They're actually moving in. Okay. So it's not a problem to be fixed. Then there's a saying that an author I know talks about where he said, this isn't an issue to be fixed. These are people to be loved.
Amen. That's an application of what I just said. And I want to be in a relationship with people where we do stop trying to fix each other. I know our time's running here. I just want to say back to what Jesus said. Jesus said, Chad, out for one another is what will show the world we belong to him. Because Jesus was wise, he knew this. He knew that love heals. Love heals. When a commitment is made to a man named Thrall that he can trust, it makes me more secure. And I'm not preoccupied with how fragile I am.
That's so, and I mean, I don't mind saying this, like in our relationship, these have been conversations I've had where I know myself, I know my personality. I don't know if you ascribe to the Enneagram. I'm a 7, and so I'm the guy that walks in and wants everybody to be smiling, and I want to know everybody in the room. But the reality is, because I want to know everyone in the room, very few people truly know me. Because I'm less. I want everybody to like me, and so what you said earlier is one of the biggest things that I try to do is put off the persona that I am likable. And honestly, there's times where I don't even know why I don't like me, because it for me to do the deep dive and dig of that is not something I want to do. Because as much as I want other people to like me, I want to like me. Because I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. I want people to like me. And that, like you said earlier, that even goes to me. I want to like myself. And so a lot of times for me, and I mean, you've seen this in our relationship, when people leave, and not because they're being, mean or, because they want to hurt me. When they leave, it hurts because I take it as a rejection of me as a person. And it's been one of the hardest things for me, and I think for many pastors, but one of the hardest things for me in ministry is, man, who's there for me?
Yeah.
And
I agree with you. And I believe you. That's critical. I believe you. That's true. And it's like maybe for another discussion, but I would just share this, Chad. Discovering who God says I am changes my view of me.
Yeah.
And another day, when we have a chance, we'll talk about.
I got time if you got time.
You, in the way, yeah, I would just say, if you are, as you're saying, describing you, and I just described, at the core of that is the story of our shame.
Yeah. Well, and I think,
and imagine God create
this. Mike asked this question, and I think it talks to that. It said, ask Bill to talk about how our past woundedness robs us of love and trust. And I think that's what you're getting to, right?
Yeah. I would just say this. If I have not known how my wounding triggered my own shame, if I don't know that, and my wounding causes me to question you. When it causes me to question you, it causes me to not trust you. I don't really know until someone teaches me that my wounding is robbing me of your love. Even if your name is God. Even if your name is God.
Yeah.
And so there is a dynamic that is critical to our health. If I'm learning to trust you with me, then I'm needing for you and me to be able to eventually talk about how wounding has so formed who I am. Again, here's the critical dynamic. Not because once I tell you how screwed up I am, you're going to help me deal with being screwed up.
Right.
It's no, you're going to love me so I can process with you what wounding has done to me.
Because in that, you're not addressing you're not addressing my wound as much as you're addressing the lie that my wound is telling me about myself.
Exactly. And so that lie is, we have a one-liner. It says this: only through love can overcome my shame. That's a one-liner.
Can you define shame?
Say it again. You're breaking up a little bit, Chad. Say it again.
Can you define shame for me?
Yeah. I like to define it by making contrast. Guilt is my awareness that I've done something wrong.
Right.
Shame is my awareness that because I've done something wrong, there's something wrong with me. And sin and shame are inseparable. Putting it this way, the byproduct of sin is always shame.
Right.
And so if I'm able, going back to our conversation just a few minutes ago, if I'm able to understand that Jesus became a man so he could show me the person of God who loves me, and that he went to the cross to die for those he loves, we need to know that in the death of Jesus, he not only died for sin, but he took upon him the shame that our sin produced.
So as we...
So I just... I just want to say that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm going back to what we talked about earlier, where you said in relationship, as I trust you
Yeah.
with my wound or my woundedness, I don't need you to address my wound. I need you. What I'm really needing is the addressing of the shame that is lying to me and tell me that I am something that I'm not. So when I unpack that and apply that from a pastoral standpoint and even this biblical standpoint as we talk through this, then in relationships with people, my job is not trying to address your shame, but trying to address your sin, but I'm trying to address the shame that is lying to you and telling you that you are something you're not. And in understanding who you truly are, then sin, whatever the behavior is, gets dealt with anyway.
Yeah. Chad, I'm sorry, but you are breaking up now so much. I'm really having trouble following you. I don't know why that's true, but I don't know how to respond right now because I'm only hearing like every third word.
Oh man.
And that might be a good reason that might be a good reason for us to meet another time, because I really I'm trying to be responsive, but it's really difficult.
No problem at all. Is it still cutting out?
Yeah, very badly.
All right. Well, then I guess
don't know why.
We can end it on this, but I'll set up another time for us to do it again.
I'm sure you said something really important. I just don't know what it is.
We'll just end here and we'll set up another time.
Okay. All right, my brother. Love you and look forward to another time.
Thank you, Bill.
You bet. Bless you, my friend.
Thank you so much. I'm going to kick you out of here. Hey guys, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if it was breaking up on and off all night, but I felt like we had some issues most of the night. It was tough for me to hear Bill continuously the whole time. So, I'll have Bill back. We'll get him back and we'll talk through past woundedness and how that robs us of our of being loved and being loved and trusting. What Bill always does is puts, I don't know, just wisdom to things. I mean, like his wisdom that knowledge can inform, but only truth can transform me. Reminds me that when Jesus is talking to the Pharisees and says, man, you search the scriptures trying to find the answer when I'm standing right in front of you. And it's that idea that you can have all the knowledge that you ever think you need, but without the truth of the person of Jesus, it doesn't matter. So I don't know, Glenn, I see your statement here. You said the byproduct of shame is all, or byproduct of sin is always shame. And that's what we're always addressing, right? Ruth said that's a really helpful definition of guilt and shame. That definition has changed things for me, because guilt tells me that I'm broke, that I've done something wrong, while shame says that I am wrong. Shame attacks my identity, and this whole thing is wrapped up in my identity. Where do I find my identity? Who am I? And the truth is that you are who God says you are. You're a saint, and that is the truth. And no matter what you do, it doesn't change that. So the devil's tactic is, if I can lie to you and tell you that you are bad, then I got you, because I've taken away your true identity. But sorry about the technical issues tonight, guys. We'll try and fix it for the next time. We'll be back here soon, hopefully. Love you guys. Thank you for hanging out and having a conversation tonight. And we will see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Have a great night. We will talk soon. Goodbye. Yes, yes.